Sega Lindbergh Universal Cabinet Restoration Part 10, Connectivity and some play. So we're getting close to the end here. This is connecting the control panel with the harness that I got from Focus Attack. Just makes life a little bit easier to connect everything. You can see I've got the iPad there with some pictures of a fight stick someone put on the web. That was pretty helpful. And then I've got a diagram there from the Brook's website. Shows all the pins. You just got to make sure you're looking at it the right way. What I came up against was the isolation switch, or the tournament switch. I needed to put in some more wires for the extra buttons that I wanted to isolate. Oh, there's the diagram there. So I had to solder in about 3 more or 4 more connectors compared to what was already on the wiring harness. And throughout this video you'll see heaps of iterations of what I've actually done. I didn't get it right first time. There's lots of sort of back and forth and trying to tidy things up and wires going over and under. This is just the switch to turn on and off the extra buttons. I did this more than once. Didn't push them on too hard because they're really tight to get on, and then they're even harder to get off. So this all gets tidied up, but this is just sort of where I was at with the equipment that I had. Got the light strip in there. The Brooks board's just on a little piece of wood that I painted with some hammered finish paint and some double-sided tape. It's just the headphone jack that I bought. I only got a crappy soldering iron. It's got quite a thick tip and it doesn't get that hot, so I'm pretty much doing a home job without any proper gear for that soldering, but tidied up pretty well with the shrink wrap. But actually it didn't work properly. It did break one of the solders from fiddling around with all that stuff. There's just a bit more of a headphone jack with some braid on it. I just bought the cheap braid from Element 14. TechFlex would have been nice, but I didn't know about it at the time. Just a few more spare pieces that I'm going to use on future projects, and a couple more USB configurations that I ended up changing for different cables, and then just the volume knob on the panel here with a washer that I put under it just to protect the panel. So let's just cut away to some live audio just as I go through a few more parts here. Alright, I thought I'd just do a quick video on some of the cabling I'm using and connectors and adapters and things for the Brooks board, and also just for the audio and video in the machine. It's going to be a bit of trial and error. I haven't really sort of worked out exactly what I'm going to do, but I've bought enough bits that I think I'll get there. Part of the trick is keeping it neat and being able to open and close the control panel without things catching or snapping. And I also want to be able to take the control panel off and sort of disconnect everything either just in the control panel or in the access panel. So the guts of this is, and what's got me by, is this KVM switch. KVM USB switch. So it means that I can have 2 systems plugged in here, say PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Plug a USB from those into these, and then I plug the output HDMI into the HDMI in the Lindbergh, where it's actually a DVI adapter, and the USB output, which then goes into the Brooks board. So it means I can switch between two gaming machines in the one platform. You just switch it with this little switcher here. Disappointingly, I've tested it out with the PlayStation. The HDMI in didn't split to analog and come out here. So that means I've had to use the multi-AV out in the PlayStation. But what do you do? I don't know if it's to do with the PlayStation or not. So a couple of these cables, male to male USBs. That's just going to go from the back of the USB input in the control panel to somewhere inside the panel, and then I'll connect those either directly to the PlayStation or maybe just to one of these. Apparently these can have a bit of trouble, so it's designed for a mouse and a keyboard, but I might be able to get away with it for a controller. There's some sort of polling number, which I don't know anything about, but I think a keyboard polls at 100 or something like that, and a PlayStation controller is 1000, so it may not work. Just a little male to female adapter. I probably would have liked those this long and then plug straight into there, but we'll see what happens. Something like this, I think it's type C and type A, that'll go into there like that, and then that'll connect with some kind of adapter, maybe one of these. To the output of this. So I got all kinds of adapters purchased, and it's one of those things, you're on the site, you get free delivery if you spend a certain amount of money, so you may as well buy a bunch of things, because buying them as one-offs isn't worth it. Different kinds in case I go a different route. That was, I don't know where this will be in the series, but you'll see I have a go at putting a monitor in that I had. And you need these elbows, because when you put the back of the Lindbergh cabinet back together, if you've got a cable that's too long, it won't fit. Same reason I bought that. If you're using the VGA on the Lindbergh, I'm using the DVI, so this box here, it actually strips the copy protection from the PlayStation, so I can plug it straight into a DVI adapter and it works. With the audio, I'm running a volume knob, so basically the left and right audio is going to come out of the PS3, run up through the machine, plug into a left and right RCA, which then goes into the volume knob. Then there's a left and right RCA which comes out of the volume knob into this. I'll then connect it with this, and then I'll have another left and right going to the Lindbergh soundboard, and then just a headphone jack, male to male, going from there and then into the headphone thing I've put on the panel. So that way I've got option to use headphones and the audio. Originally I had the left stick, right stick, direction pad buttons connected to this, which I made myself, and I soldered it on. It wasn't the best job, but it was in the absence of having the proper connector, which I've now got. So I bought a bag of 10 of these from eBay. So that'll just plug into there. And then the other end I'll just, it's a bit tight. Don't think it matters which way it goes. The other end looks like this, and then I'm just in the process of putting it together with these connectors. So I bought a few different kinds of those, some higher end ones, and I'll probably just end up using these ones. Put a bit of shrink wrap on them. What I'll also use this for is the USB out on the board here, and that'll allow me to power the light strip. So I'll have one there and one here. Something like that. Nice and neat. That was what I was previously using, or planning to use, to power the lights. Or the lights as far as the under the control panel. And then something like that would plug into there, and then I had the end cut to get the 5 volts out of it. And lastly, just a optical cable. I was going to use the optical cable on the PlayStation 3 going into a little DAC, but there's no point. The PlayStation 3's got that multi AV out option, so I'll just use that. And just down here is just a few more things, more adapters and cables. I won't use all of them, but I don't want to be caught short when I actually just go for it. So part of the trick will be those connectors there that are for the harnesses. I'll probably just have to pop those out just so I can fit enough cables through, and I'll just tie them off in the back there somewhere. There's the other connectors. The light strip was already done. I'll just cut that, and then there's the headphone that I've built. I can't undo that because it's fixed pretty firmly. That's just the back there. You can see the headphone, the volume, and then that's the volume in and out. It's getting a little bit crowded, and that's looking pretty tidy too. Trying to make it so it's sort of secure but not too tight, because when I close this lid you can see there's a bit of tension. Alright, I'll leave it there. Okay, so a few things out of order, but it's pretty hard to keep up with things when you're experimenting. So this is for the direction pad, left stick, right stick button. And then that's the new light strip I made with the actual proper DuPont connector. Just a test there of the lighting. And then here I'm using the existing mounting board for the old Lindbergh, just to make one for the left hand side to attach a few things to. Pretty quick job. Just put a bit of clear on it just to protect it from moisture. Then I'm just going to cable tie on the KVM switch. Previously I've used the KVM switch in some, like a little bookcase cube storage outside, but I wanted to make this one in the machine. And that's sort of how it finished up. Just a little light there. The adapter you can see there for the USB and the HDMI in and out. That's how it turned out, pretty good. Okay, so back in the panel now, getting better, tidying things up. I really like that double-sided Velcro, it's just gentle, it's easy to take apart. Maybe not quite as tidy as cable ties, but when you're experimenting and working things out, you don't want to be clipping cable ties on and off all day. The audio stuff there was a bit tricky, that's why I ended up in that loop. Had to move a few of those retainers around. The reason the cables keep changing in those USBs is I'm trying to use the length that's nearly perfect without having too much coiled up in the machine. And I don't want to have to buy the exact ones. It can really add up. I already spent probably $60 on cables. So there's just a few more adapters there. So that adapter might be $3, but the cable that I could get that was perfect might be $9 or $10. So that's where we finished up, I think. Yep. Proper DuPont connectors on the USB and on the direction pad changing connector. All that stuff just sort of tucked away to the side. All the I/O stuff is just all intact. Neatened up those two cherry switches on the left. Little bit of work to do on the back as far as where I want cables to go. And that's how the PlayStation looked. So finally got to plug some games in and have a bit of a play with it. And then I found that the audio wasn't working properly, so I've hit a bit of a hurdle with the headphones, and it's something I didn't really know about. That's me testing the headphones just to make sure that they were wired up properly. So I just got a left and right audio track on YouTube just to make sure I had the around the right way. One with the light strip on, one with the light strip off. Basically, because the headphone jack is split into two, or the audio is split into two, one for the headphone jack and one for the soundboard, even when I plug the headphone jack in, there's still a signal going to the Lindbergh soundboard, so you'll have headphones on but you can still hear a bit of noise coming out of the speakers. So I've got to work out what to do there, whether I build a switch into it or I just, you know, pop the access panel and turn the volume down and just use the headphones. So here's a few different views. Bright games like that look pretty good. It's not too bad when there's plenty of colour, you don't see the wear and tear on the monitor. Begin. So just a bit of gameplay here. The Lindbergh fluorescent tube up the top there, it's sort of washed out the screen, it's not that bad. And obviously can't play this game, but I'm looking forward to discovering it. So we're pretty much finished for now. There's a few things I still want to do. I want to get a original Lindbergh billboard for the top. I want to sort out the headphone. It's not an issue, it's just physics or what electronics. I need to work out how to isolate one audio source. One of the ideas I've got for that is to get a HDMI extractor, which I've ordered on Amazon, and that has a left and right RCA out, and it also has a headphone out. So I'll connect the headphone directly to that, I think, and the volume control will just control the amp in the Lindbergh, and just got to test what the level is. I'll work it out, a bit of contemplating to do on that one. But getting the HDMI extractor or the audio extractor from the HDMI, that'll help me to be able to use a second console or PC with this system. You could see I mentioned earlier that KVM switch, the left and right audio didn't work, so that kind of ruined my plans, but this little box I'm getting, it's $35, that'll do the trick, I think. I'll probably put a bit of paper or cardboard behind the middle of that instruction space just to block out the light like on the original. And then of course, sort of in the back of my mind is putting in a 1080p monitor now that I've taken it apart and know what to do. Last but not least, I could put in some buttons on the right there, a turbo button and touchpad button, but not necessary at this stage. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the series to date. I think this is 10 videos. Whatever I do next I'll put up, which will probably be in a couple of weeks when I get some parts and just fine tuning things. Thanks for watching, hit me up with any questions.
さっさと終われ。